Today on America's Court with Judge Ross.
I had so many church people coming up to me, and one gal said, I heard about your drinking problem, and you need to stop drinking.
In my courtroom, it's about equity and fairness. You want him to pay $628.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, knock my socks off. Justice should be more than just some foreign concept. I actually want you to learn something. The law talks about something may in fact be true, but can they prove it? And that's what's tough.
Fair, firm, compassionate. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. Sandy Lawrence claims her devil costume was ripped because of someone else's strict religious views. She's suing Deborah McKenzie in the amount of $350. Ms. McKenzie claims she was only trying to protect the plaintiff.
All rise. Remain standing and come to order. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Kevin Ross presiding.
Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated.
All parties been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Deputy Thomas. Ms. Lawrence, you are into this role-playing anime thing, from what I understand?
Yes, sir.
That's your
yes,
thing?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
And something happened to a costume.
Mm-hmm.
And you think she intentionally damaged your costume?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. McKenzie, you're saying no?
Correct. I didn't mean to do this.
It was an accident?
Correct.
All right. And how long did the two of you had a relationship in terms of knowing each other?
We've been knowing each other for a couple years. We met at the dorm at the university, and I was looking for a roommate, and she was looking for an apartment.
You all didn't have any problems living together?
Well, we did a little bit, but I let that go.
Okay.
Because I needed a place to live.
All right. What was the extent of your relationship? You did your thing?
She did her thing. I did my thing.
All right.
I like to party. I like to have fun.
We
I
like to party.
Yes, I'm young. It's like an impressionable time in my life.
All right.
I mean, I get
and
good
you're not
grades.
so much out on the scene?
Well, Your Honor, I spend most of my time studying and working and
Okay.
hanging out with my church group.
Okay. You have a more of a spiritual path that is not so much being out there.
She has told me several times how I'm such a big sinner, and she has invited me to church several times, and
Yes.
I ultimately gave
when people
in.
invite someone to their church, that's actually, to me, it seems like that's something pleasant, that's something affirming. Would you like to go to church with me? I mean,
Yeah, it's good, but
you
she's
felt
just
like she was
so
judging you.
judgmental.
Okay.
Yeah, in regards to my lifestyle. Just because I don't live my life the way she does, she really badgers me about going out, drinking, having fun. I'm just doing what all school
You just doing
girls-
you, huh?
Yeah, I'm doing me.
Well, Your Honor, I was not really telling her that she was a sinner. All I did was say, hey, maybe,
Yes, you did.
maybe you
No,
could
let me
come
hear it
out
say.
with me,
Maybe
to
she could do
church
what?
and meet some nice people. So naturally,
slow your roll.
Naturally, I talked to the people at my church because we're like a church family, and I told.
And she told them all of my business.
Well,
That's
Your
what she did. Because
Your
when
Honor.
I went to church with her, Your
Oh,
Honor.
you did go to church with her?
I did. I ultimately, because I wanted us to hone our relationship. I think our relationship is important, and I really wanted a chance to get to know her.
And what did you think of the service when you went?
Oh, the service was good,
You
but
are funny
I had,
to me.
I had so many church people coming up to me, and one gal said, I heard about your drinking problem, and you need to stop drinking. And I'm like, where did you get that from?
That's a
I
church
was
you
like,
want to go
so, Your Honor,
I
I was
understand.
so upset about it, and I just had a
You-
bad
you were like,
feeling
I'm
about
done,
it.
huh?
No, yeah, because I couldn't trust her. Like, why are you sharing my business with your church? Why do they need to know that?
That's
Well,
actually a good question.
Your Honor, they noticed that I was coming into service and I was looking very tired. I had bags under my eyes, dark circles, and they were wondering what was going on with me. So I told them a little bit about my life.
And about mine.
Okay. It now makes sense to me because you decide, was it for Halloween or was it for this cosplay thing that you were doing?
It was for a cosplay convention.
That's your
And
jam. That's what you like to get into. Go
I
into
do,
this.
and both of us, we are anime fanatics.
You're an
and
anime fan too?
I love cartoons.
Okay.
Yeah, so I thought it was a perfect opportunity for us to go to this convention. They didn't have alcohol. It was just a place where people dressed up in anime costumes or
And you decided
DC
to go
comics.
also.
I did.
Was this before or after she had gone to church with you?
After she'd gone to church with me, I thought it was a good idea to return the favor
I
as a
agree.
friend.
Okay. And did you get dressed up in a costume?
I didn't. I never had done that before. It was very new to me. So I
You were like,
opted
let me just
out
kind of
this
take it
time.
all in.
Exactly.
You, on the other hand,
Oh, yeah, I got my
I-
sexy
we like to
devil
party. Yeah, I know.
costume out. And she was just, she gave me such a hard time
because
about
the costume
purchasing.
consisted of what exactly?
It was a devil costume, Your Honor. Yeah. But it was cute because it had wings, it was sexy, it showed my assets. But yes, it cost $350.
You keep referring to that. Is that one of the wings?
Well, this is the wing that she destroyed.
All right, show it up. Deputy
You
Thomas,
want to
stand
kind
up
of
to me.
see
Let me
this? Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
devils have wings? Or, I mean, was
Well,
like
I was
something like
like an
this.
angelic devil. So this was
and so
something that
how
has
Deputy
not been
Tom-
Do you want to see
created.
this?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Basically, it looks like it goes like this.
And so it would be attached
Got it?
to something in the front,
The back of
back.
my costume, yes.
and there's a rip.
There is a rip.
Okay.
So what
And
happened?
that's what you're saying she caused damage.
Yes,
by. And
Your
then what else?
Honor.
What is that?
This is the tube dress, and as you can see, it's ripped in the back. You see this hole?
Yes.
I cannot wear this again.
Coming up on America's Court.
I feel someone yank the back of my wing. I fell on the floor, and when I turned around, I see Deborah holding this wing, talking about there was a bee on my wing.
And later,
I'm just trying to understand how something went from 6 hours to 13 hours.
So I was doing everything by myself, and I was going back and forth
Then it
between
sounds
the
like
apartments.
the 13 hours is reasonable.
closed captioning provided by. If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. America's Court is back with the case of Sandy Lawrence, who's suing Deborah McKenzie for property damage.
How did her costume get damaged?
Okay, so we're at the convention. We're roaming around the dealer's hall buying unique items that we can't find in any stores anywhere else. We get tired, we get famished. We decide to go out to the
You
food
two
truck.
are such an interesting contrast in personalities here.
We decided to go to the food truck to satisfy our craving there. And so she's there talking to the guy at the food truck for 20 minutes. And I'm standing there in the sun next to her, waiting for us to go somewhere under the shade, and we can hang out and
You're
get to know
talking
each
to
other a
the
little
food
bit
truck
better.
guy
Yeah,
because...
he was sexy.
Okay,
and,
all right.
I'm
All
in the
right.
process of looking for another guy. But I was hungry, actually, and I was having a conversation, and he had agreed to give me a free lunch. So, I figured I had to extend the conversation,
Of course.
being that he's giving me a free lunch.
Right.
And so I'm there talking to this guy, and lo and behold, I feel someone yank the back of my wing. I had soda in my hand. It spilled all over my costume. I fell on the floor, and when I turned around, I see Deborah holding this wing, talking about there was a bee on my wing. I'm like, a bee? Why did you have to pull the entire wing to get the bee off of my
You are
costume?
killing me.
Oh.
You are killing me.
She killed me by destroying my outfit.
You saw a bee near her and you couldn't just kind of shush.
Your Honor, I was standing next to her. I hear this buzz. I look over. I look at her wing. It has a bee stuck to it.
Do you have a thing about bees?
I am afraid of bees, but
Okay.
I know that Sandy here has had trouble with being stuck by a bee at school. She had a panic attack one day, and she had to be rushed to the hospital.
Do you have a thing about bees?
Yes, I'm very allergic. And
Oh, you're allergic to bees?
Yes.
You have a reaction when...
I do.
Okay. then that makes sense to me.
Well, I appreciate the idea, but I don't believe it for a moment, Your Honor. I really don't. Because if you think about it, if a bee was on my wing, first of all, I did not hear her say anything about a bee flying around. And if a bee was on my wing, it wasn't going to sting me. It was on the wing. So if she was so afraid of bees...
Well, then why do you think she did that? Because you kept her waiting for 20 minutes?
Because she wanted to destroy my devil costume because she's so religious and she gave me a hard time about purchasing this devil costume.
And how long have you known her?
I've known her for a couple years.
All right. And in the couple of years that you've known her, has she ever done something that malicious to you?
She hasn't done something that malicious,
Do you
but
think
the fact
that her religious walk is sincere? Do you think she really does believe in her faith?
I think she does believe whatever she believes, and she believes that everybody should believe the way she believes.
And you're telling her you're being ridiculous.
Absolutely,
I
Your
didn't do
Honor.
this on purpose.
I didn't rip off your wings just because you're
I
a
got to
devil.
tell you, Ms. Lawrence, I don't believe she did that. All right. Do we have the receipts or anything showing the damage here?
Yes, I have the receipt
I'll take all your
of the
evidence.
purchase.
How come you guys couldn't come to some meeting of the minds in terms of how about we split the cost? Or I know you didn't do it on purpose. I know you're, oh, look at you in this outfit.
Sexy, isn't it? Don't tell your wife.
You're a little too fresh here. All right, now, let's take a look at you in that. Okay, I see.
Yeah, see that?
All right. Based on the evidence and the testimony for this court, before I come down with the ruling, what's the status of the living arrangement? You two still roommates?
No, she moved out 3 months after the fact because I couldn't forgive her after that. I really couldn't, and it was just a strained relationship. We didn't talk.
You know, I find it fascinating that you said you can't forgive her because oftentimes forgiveness frees you. I just want you to kind of marinate on that, all right? But really what we have here is a situation where she has property. She's entitled to be made whole. She paid a certain amount for it. She has to be compensated. You are going to have to pay the $350, ma'am. That is the order. Case closed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All rise.
Judge Ross has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has been ordered to pay $350.
I'm glad I got the money for my damaged costume. I wish Deborah all the best, and I'm really hoping that we can still be friends.
It's unfortunate that we had to settle our discrepancies in court. Hopefully we can mend our animosities and still be friends.
And coming up on America's Court with Judge Ross.
I'm just trying to understand how something went from 6 hours to 13 hours.
So I was doing everything by myself, and I was going back and forth
Then it
between
sounds
the
like
apartments.
the 13 hours is reasonable.
Closed captioning provided by. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. Jeannie Mullins claims her credit card was charged for moving expenses without her authorization. She's suing Ernest Williams in the amount of $1,500. Mr. Williams claims he only gave the plaintiff a rough estimate. Therefore, the final cost she was charged is correct.
$1,500 is what you want from Mr. Williams because of the misunderstanding between the two of you regarding your moving.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Williams, you don't feel as though you should have to pay this $1,500. She's saying that you didn't have authorization to charge her that much.
Well, I had an estimate,
Yes.
$750 that I sent her.
Yes.
That is indeed an estimate. It ended up being more than that. Total cost was $2,250.
$2,250 above the $750.
$2,250 total.
Right. What stuff did she have?
So she told me she had a bed, a dresser, a sofa, a coffee table. I get there, she has a sectional that's about 2 couches worth. She has 2 coffee tables, 2 dressers, and a king-size bed. So I get there, my estimate...
That doesn't sound like a lot to me. $2,250 sounds excessive to me for that.
I was charging based on, the estimate was $750. I charge $135 per hour.
Did you know he charged $135 an hour?
I did, and I expected it to be around 6 hours of work.
Well, $135 an hour, 6 hours worth of work, would be $810, which is pretty consistent with the $750 quote.
That's typically what it takes to move a one-bedroom, about
How
6
long
hours.
did it take to move
Well-
this woman out of the apartment?
It ended up taking me 13 hours total.
Coming up on America's Court.
I'm just trying to understand how something went from 6 hours to 13 hours.
So I was doing everything by myself, and I was going back and forth
Then it
between
sounds
the
like
apartments.
the 13 hours is reasonable.
Closed captioning provided by. This is America's Court with Judge Ross. America's Court is back with the case of Jeannie Mullins, who is suing Ernest Williams for moving expenses.
Why would it take 13 hours for that?
Well, the problem started when I arrived to the apartment complex. She told me that there would be a way to move this. I get there, the service elevator is broken. I asked her about it. It had been broken for weeks and weeks, so I had to use the pedestrian elevator. Anything that could not fit in that elevator, there wasn't a way for me to get that in the elevator, so I had to move this down the 4 flights of stairs. She was on the 4th floor, penthouse
Now,
level.
I had talked...
Is that true? Was it 4 flights of stairs?
Yes, and I had spoken...
Had you already been packed, or were you moving and packing simultaneously?
I was moving and packing.
All right, that's
and
fine. I'm just trying to understand how something went from 6 hours to 13 hours.
So I was doing everything by myself, and I was going back and forth
Then it
between
sounds
the
like
apartments.
the 13 hours is reasonable. Because
Well,
initially, it didn't sound reasonable to me.
But every time that I went back, not a lot of things had been moved, and everything was being wrapped,
Was there
and I asked
something
him
where
not
he had to go 4 flights because a service elevator or something was not working?
Yes, I didn't know that it wouldn't be working at the time.
Okay, so
But-
that added to the time frame.
Yes, but also he didn't ask to, he didn't tell me before he charged my card.
And the 13
if-
hours, did that also include the travel and then unloading the items at the other location?
Correct.
Yes.
It's for the move-in and the move-out.
Okay.
Which, at the beginning of the move, even if he realized the scenario is different, when he arrived, because he's a mover and he does this for a living, should have been able to say, all right, your things aren't packed up as much as other people's are. The flights of stairs. Okay, so what we're looking at is that this is going to be different than the $750, and communicate that about me.
Fair enough. Did you do that?
I did not tell her the exact amount. I guess I assumed. I let her know the hourly rate. I thought
Because
that
if
she
I'm
would...
thinking I'm paying $750 and I get a bill for $2,250, I'm probably going to have an attitude.
Judge Ross's verdict when America's Court returns. You're watching America's Court with Judge Ross. This is America's Court with Judge Ross.
Based on the evidence and the testimony before this court, the gavel is going to come down in favor of the plaintiff because you're the professional. You have to get the sign-off saying this is going to be this number of hours, and we can still go forward, but I'm letting you know now. You have to get some sort of authorization. You can't just say, oh, take your time, spend as long as you want, and then come up. I mean, the amount is so much higher than what you initially quoted. Now, are you getting the whole $1,500? That's not going to happen. Because some of it was your neglect of not being prepared and the circumstances that he found himself in. You know what I'm going to do in this case? I'm going to split the cost. I'm going to award you $750, so that bill, you would have made $1,500 that you may have still seen a loss and cut into your profit, but I think you're at least entitled to $750. That is going to be your judgment. Case closed.
Judge Ross has ruled in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant has been ordered to pay $750.
I'm glad I got my $750 back, but I will never recommend this moving company to anyone.
Next time, at the beginning of the move, I'll let the customer know how long I think it's going to take at that time.
Follow America's Court on Facebook and Twitter. This has been a production of Entertainment.